Kimi Antonelli did not simply top second practice at Spa. He set a lap of 1 minute, 45.944 seconds, and nobody touched it for the rest of the session. Mercedes had gone from a disappointing opening practice to the fastest car on the circuit in only a few hours. But Antonelli's dominance exposed a problem the team could not hide. George Russell was still 1.285 seconds slower, even after Mercedes resolved the power unit issue that had hurt him earlier. And with Antonelli already leading Russell by 25 championship points, that gap was more than embarrassing. It was a warning. Because Mercedes had fixed its general setup mistake, Antonelli had unlocked the car's true speed, and yet Russell's machine still appeared to be losing performance on the straights. So Antonelli's fastest lap did not prove Mercedes had solved everything. It proved the speed was there, while one side of the garage still could not reach it. And if Mercedes cannot identify that hidden weakness before qualifying, Spa could become the weekend Antonelli stopped looking like the future of the team, and started looking like its undisputed leader. To understand why Antonelli's fastest lap mattered so much, we need to look at what Mercedes had just escaped. Only a few hours earlier, the team did not look dominant. It looked uncertain. The opening practice session had exposed a car that was not working in the right window, a setup built around grip that Spa was not actually providing, and a garage trying to understand why the performance was missing. Antonelli was 6th. Russell was 8th. Mercedes was not at the front. And worse than that, the team had not positioned the car correctly for the conditions. That is the kind of mistake that can ruin an entire weekend. Because when a Formula One car begins Friday in the wrong setup window, every later decision becomes more difficult. The drivers lose confidence. The tires do not behave as expected. The engineers begin changing several things at once. And once too many variables start moving, the team can lose track of what is helping and what is making the problem worse. But Mercedes avoided that spiral. Between the two sessions, the team corrected the broader setup direction. The car became more stable. The available grip became easier to use. And Antonelli responded immediately. That is the first important clue. His lap did not arrive after several failed attempts. It did not require a long search. It came on his first soft tire run. 1 minute, 45.944 seconds. Then everyone else had the rest of the session to answer. No one did. That does not prove Antonelli had the fastest car in every condition. Friday practice is more complicated than that. Fuel loads can differ. Run plans can differ. Tire preparation can differ. Some drivers may be concentrating on one fast lap, while others are learning about longer runs. The source does not provide every detail needed to compare those programs perfectly. But it does prove one thing. When the corrected Mercedes gave Antonelli a chance to attack, he delivered the benchmark. And that benchmark immediately changed the pressure inside the team. Before second practice, both drivers could point toward the same broad problem. The setup was wrong. The grip estimate had been wrong. The car was not working properly. After Antonelli went fastest, that shared explanation disappeared. Now Mercedes knew the car could produce the quickest lap. The question was no longer whether the performance existed. The question was why Russell could not reach it. That is what Antonelli's dominance exposed. Not a flaw in his own performance. A flaw in the comparison between the two cars. Russell's power unit issue had partly explained his weak first practice. That gave Mercedes a clear mechanical reason for some of the deficit. The team resolved that issue before second practice. The obvious expectation was that Russell would move much closer. He did not. He remained 1.285 seconds behind Antonelli. That is not a normal gap to ignore. One driver can miss a braking point. One driver can lose tire temperature. One driver can encounter traffic. A few tenths may come from one imperfect lap. But more than a full second forces the team to look deeper. Especially when the slower driver is in the same car concept, at the same circuit, during the same session. And especially when that driver is only 25 points behind his teammate in the championship. This was not just a technical comparison. It was a championship comparison. Antonelli was already ahead in points. Now he was also ahead on the track. That combination creates pressure in a way a simple practice result cannot. Because a championship leader who goes fastest begins to look in control. A championship challenger who remains more than a second behind begins to look like he is reacting. And in Formula One, the driver who reacts is already one step behind. But the deeper issue was not psychological. It was technical. The available long-run analysis suggested Russell was struggling specifically on the straights compared with Antonelli. That is a major concern at Spa. This circuit rewards efficiency. The car must accelerate strongly. It must cut through the air. It must carry speed along long sections where every small weakness becomes visible. A straight-line deficit is not trapped in one part of the lap. It follows the driver. It affects the speed before braking. It affects overtaking. It affects defending. It affects energy use. It affects how much time can be recovered after a weak corner. Think of it like two runners leaving the same bend. One reaches full speed immediately. The other needs several extra steps. The second runner may be just as fast through the corner. But every straight section begins with a disadvantage. That disadvantage grows. At Spa, there are enough long acceleration zones for that loss to become serious. And the most frustrating part for Mercedes is that Antonelli proved the car did not have to suffer in the same way. One Mercedes could go fastest. The other appeared to be giving away speed. That means the problem was not simply the general concept. It was something specific. Maybe the setup was different. Maybe the aerodynamic resistance was higher. Maybe the energy deployment was not working in the same way. Maybe the corner exits were weaker, creating a loss that continued down the straight. The source does not provide a final diagnosis. So any exact explanation would be speculation. But the uncertainty is part of the danger. Mercedes could see the gap. It still had to understand the cause. And understanding the cause before qualifying was essential. Because the wrong correction could make Russell's car even worse. Reduce wing to improve straight-line speed, and the car may lose stability through the corners. Add more support for grip, and the resistance may increase. Change the ride height, and the floor may behave differently. Change the balance, and the tires may begin working in a different temperature range. Formula 1 setups are connected. Move one part, and another reacts. That is why Russell's problem could not be solved with panic. It needed precision. Mercedes had already shown it could make a successful large correction between sessions. But the first correction addressed a shared problem. This new weakness appeared isolated to one car. That makes it harder. A shared problem allows both sides of the garage to work together. A car-specific problem splits the team's attention. Antonelli's engineers can continue refining a package that already works. Russell's engineers must investigate why their car does not match it. One side improves. The other side diagnoses. One side prepares for the front of the grid. The other side tries to avoid falling deeper into trouble. That is not an ideal way to enter qualifying. And the championship situation makes it even more sensitive. Antonelli already held a 25-point advantage over Russell. That gap was large enough to matter, but small enough to create pressure. Russell could still recover. One strong result could change the picture. But he needed weekends where he was closing the gap, not watching Antonelli extend control. Spa was supposed to be an opportunity. Instead, Friday placed Russell in a position where he had to solve a technical weakness before he could even begin fighting his teammate. That is a brutal situation. A driver wants to think about braking points, corner speed, tire preparation, and race strategy. Russell also had to wonder whether his car was giving him the same straight-line performance as Antonelli's. That doubt changes confidence. Not because the driver stops trusting the team. Because every lap becomes a question. Am I losing time because of the car? Am I losing time because of the setup? Am I compensating incorrectly? Do I need to drive differently? Should I reduce drag? Should I accept less grip? The more questions enter the cockpit, the harder it becomes to produce a clean lap. Antonelli faced a simpler task. The car responded. The setup direction worked. The first soft tire lap delivered the fastest time. That simplicity is powerful. A driver who trusts the car can focus on execution. A driver investigating a problem must divide attention between performance and diagnosis. That difference may explain why the gap felt so severe. Not because Russell lacked speed as a driver. Because Antonelli had clarity, while Russell still had uncertainty. And clarity is one of the most valuable advantages in Formula 1. It allows the driver to commit earlier. It allows the engineers to make smaller, more confident changes. It allows the team to prepare for qualifying instead of searching for basic answers. Antonelli had reached that stage. Russell had not. That is why the fastest lap did more than establish the order. It established a reference. Mercedes now had one car showing what the package could do. Every section of Antonelli's lap could be compared directly with Russell's. The braking. The steering. The throttle. The speed at the beginning of the straights. The speed at the end. The energy deployment. The corner exits. The tire behavior. The team did not need to guess whether the Mercedes was capable. It had proof. The task was to find where Russell's car stopped matching that proof. This is where Formula 1 becomes more complicated than the timing screen. A driver who looks slow on a straight may not have a pure straight line problem. The loss may begin before the straight. A weaker corner exit means the car starts accelerating from a lower speed. The deficit then grows all the way to the braking zone. From the outside, it appears to be a power or drag issue. In reality, the balance may have prevented the driver from applying the throttle earlier. That means Mercedes had to study the entire sequence, not just the maximum speed. Where did Russell begin losing time? Was the car rotating properly? Was he able to return to full power? Was the electrical assistance arriving in the same way? Was his wing level creating more resistance? Was the corrected setup helping Antonelli while leaving Russell uncomfortable? Every answer pointed toward a different solution. And every wrong solution risked damaging the strengths already present. That is the danger of chasing a teammate. The faster car becomes the obvious reference. But copying the faster car does not always solve the problem. Drivers can prefer different balances. One may want a sharper front end. Another may need more rear stability. One may tolerate a nervous car. Another may need predictable movement before committing fully. If Russell's setup was simply copied from Antonelli's, the car might still not suit him. If the two configurations moved too far apart, Mercedes would lose clean comparison. The team needed to close the performance gap without losing the ability to understand why it existed. That is an extremely difficult balance. And all of this had to happen quickly. Qualifying would demand maximum performance. Fresh tires. Low fuel. Full commitment. No time to hide a straight-line deficit. If Russell remained more than a second behind, the result could place him deep in traffic. And traffic at Spa creates another chain of problems. Following another car reduces aerodynamic grip. Reduced grip causes sliding. Sliding increases tire temperature. Hot tires lose performance. The driver then needs more speed on the straights to complete an overtake. But if the car is already weak there, the attack becomes harder. The technical deficit turns into a strategic trap. Meanwhile, Antonelli could start near the front. Clean air. Better tire management. More freedom over strategy. One Mercedes would be controlling the race.